When I was growing up, my image of Japan was a distant, futuristic land filled with both wonder and the bizarre. Seeing articles with images like this and equally eye-catching titles painted the country as if it was some sort of fantasy realm. By the way, that image is from an adult film. I can assure you, besides some unique menu items, McDonald's in Japan are pretty normal. This narrative on the internet that Japan is batshit crazy is still around today. While I do think it's less intense now, clickbaiting unsuspecting Westerners with some crazy Japanese invention or strange custom is pretty commonplace even now. I do think this is a big reason why Japan has gotten quite popular, even if these articles and reports are exaggerated, factually incomplete, and sometimes just incorrect. They do spark a lot of intrigue. We want to learn more, so we begin to seek out more information. Do taxis in Japan actually have automatic doors? Yes, they do. Are vending machines everywhere? Not if you're hiking in the middle of the mountains. Well, except for Fuji. Wearing masks is common? Yeah, but that's most of Asia. These facts make it seem like Japan is this really unique place with customs that only exist here. But you can do this for almost any country. Does the US have a mass shooting almost every week? It does. Do prices in the US not include taxes? Yes. Eating spray cheese is common? Well, it's bigger in America than anywhere else. See? America is so weird and wacky. Wow. But, unlike the US as a whole, there's so much more content about Japan. About people eating local foods, going to a town with only 50 people, or finding a train station run by a cat. Yeah. You would think that there's this craze about Japan. After all, look at some of the biggest YouTubers focusing on the place. Does France have this many YouTube channels about it? Or does the algorithm know I'm a weeb and pretend the rest of the world doesn't exist? Is Japan really becoming the most popular country in the world? I was watching YouTube the other day and spotted Abroad in Japan had uploaded a video on a haunted inn in Iwate, and for a second I got deja vu because not only did he already cover this about 3 years ago, but there's so many videos on haunted places in Japan. Does Japan have more ghosts than India? The truth is, this isn't Chris lacking creativity. Japan has a lot of interesting things to do, especially considering its size, but the number of experiences is still finite. So what ends up happening is that people keep making the same stuff again and again. Like how everybody goes to Japan's Cat Island, or Japan's Rabbit Island, or Japan's Monkey Island. I personally recommend the island with quokkas. Oh wait, that's not Japan. Well, it might as well be, because all the content of world travel I'm getting these days is in Japan. On TikTok, Japan is beginning to feel like the only country that even exists.
Crazy laws that only exist in Japan.
Do not get me started on all the street interview channels in Japan, most of which love to ask if Japanese girls want to date foreigners. So let's see if this deluge of content is really unique to Japan. Let's look at content from another popular country on the world stage, the UK. Here's an up-and-coming creator that covers some of our best and brightest cities. For example, this video on how to survive Birmingham, or Stoke, the city with no hope. Seems a little bleak, doesn't it? Actually, there's quite a lot of content on Great Britain, even occasionally being positive in tone. Perhaps that's why so many Americans visit here, even if they can't name any city outside of London. I've spoken a lot about Japan's presence on the internet and the allure that it creates. But the thing is, the country's grasp on the world goes further than we first give thought to. Think back to your childhood. What did you watch on TV? Pokemon, perhaps, maybe Digimon or Dragon Ball. After you've finished with that, you might boot up your Game Boy or PlayStation and play some games. These devices and media have their roots in Japan, even if what we ultimately consumed was localized and transformed into quite a different end product.
These donuts are great!
Even the car your dad took you to school in, it might have been Japanese. If not, then their portable music device probably was. Okay, I understand this seems a little silly to point out. After all, every country takes things from other places because they're considered the best at making it, or because they identify with that overseas brand more. There's a lot of different reasons really, but Japan made a lot of the stuff that mattered to us 80s and 90s kids. The things we found fun. And as I said before, the desire to learn more about the things that interest us, that's powerful. Because what happens when you finish all of the Yu-Gi-Oh! GX dub, but you still have a craving? You look it up and see that there's so many more episodes out there that exist only in Japanese. Before you know it, you're watching Soul Eater or Blue Exorcist in their unedited form in a language you can't understand if it wasn't for the subtitles at the bottom of the screen. However, Japan isn't all about anime. Not everyone that likes Japan is into the stuff. After all, a wise YouTube philosopher once pondered the question, what if Japan banned anime? And the answer is, not a lot. There's so much more cultural export that the country could focus on. That's really my point. Japan's popularity is largely based on our second-hand experience of it. Back then it was Pokemon, but now it's just some IRL streamer gawking at the size of Shinjuku Station or something.
I'm at Shinjuku Station right now.
Japan is popular to me because I hear about it all the time. I check social media, and there's always something about it on there, even though I live almost 6,000 miles from the place. It's an echo chamber of highly passionate people projecting their love for Japan to others who also love it. Compound that now with an internet that pretty much cherry picks the content it thinks that we'll like, and you have the answer as to why Japan is so popular. Or is it? See, Japan doesn't even rank in the top 10 international destinations for American travelers. I hear stories about how overcrowded Kyoto is with tourists, and it definitely is, but do you know which country is most visited by Americans outside of the North American continent? It's the UK. You know, the happiest place on earth I spoke about earlier. If we think about countries as brands for a second, Japan is a very well-known one. For lots of us, it has made things we love and cherish that have shaped part of our entire identity. But then, equally, others get tired of the brand and find different ones that they like better. People change and move on. The more I think about it, Japan isn't any more or any less popular than all other major economies that exist on the planet. But it ended up being a large part of my life, of who I am. This isn't just my story, it's the case for a lot of my friends as well as the people I admire. It turns out that what's popular is kind of, at least partially, shaped by you. I could dive deeper into that, but I'm not a psychologist, so I'll leave it there.